Fatimah, one of the co-founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships and outstandingpersonalrelationships.com, where we help build or develop strong relationships and healthy relationships, whether you practice monogamy or polygyny. I had to say monogamy because some people think because they see two wives that we don't talk about monogamy, and we've all been in monogamy before, and my co-wife talks about that, and we're all very transparent about our journey and what we have been through, and I love that about the OPR team. Now, with this particular discussion, I am going to be talking about should you or should you not have your co-wife's back. Now, I want to make a little disclaimer. I don't know where you all are in your co-wife journey. How's it going for you? I just know how it went for me and some others that I've coached and had clients, and that the OPR team has helped as well. Initially, I was very quiet and I didn't say too much to my co-wife outside of giving her salams, and that's what Muslims do. We give, the right to the other Muslim, and we were very cordial. Like, I never would ever refer to her as anything other than wife, and I think that's very important. I cannot stress that enough. As an initial wife, even if you're a subsequent wife, I gave her the title that our creator gave her. So I wasn't going to be dismissive of that title at all. However, some people were, and they would try to actually come to me with this dismissive energy, or this side piece term, or this baby mama term, or not the real wife term, the terminology that some people do use. It happens. And I like having these kind of discussions, because these discussions are not always easy to have, because, we think about the society that we grew up in, and the society that we grew up here in the West specifically looks down upon polygyny. And it's considered taboo, and everything around it is considered taboo. So anytime you start talking about women being married to the same man and having children by the same man within polygyny, oh my God, it's like there's blood in the streets. And it's, to me, become something that has been, a gift. And I remember when some people thought it was a curse in my life. They were like very accusatory, very judgmental, and not very understanding. So one of the things I look at is the relationship that the co-wives have or can have. What is the potential of the relationship? So I knew for me, sitting in a place of privilege, meaning that I knew that I, for a fact, had a co-wife that didn't want any drama, that did not like confrontation, still to this day does not like confrontation and drama. And that says a lot about the INFJ community, because they just don't like that. And that's the introvert, intuitive feeling, judging of the Myers-Briggs personality type. If you guys are not familiar with it, please take the personality type test. I'll just Google Myers-Briggs or 16 personality types. I believe it's .com. I researched it, and it's pretty spot on. And it's not, everybody's not just this cookie cutter. So there can be some variation, of course. And this is not tarot card, crystal ball reading type stuff. You're answering your own questions, and they just come up with your scores and your personality type. I'm an ENFP. And one thing that I learned down the road by researching different personality types is that I found out that my personality type and that of my co-wife, Coach Nyla, they get along great. I mean, I couldn't have made this up. I'm not that good. But they get along really, really well with each other, because they know how to stay out of each other's way. They're feelers. They kind of we have a lot of similarities in that way. You try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. No matter how difficult it might be initially, you still strive to do that as an ENFP and as an INFJ. And many other personality types do the same. But it's funny that on the spectrum of the 16 personality types, they are considered the best friends of the 16. And that was just incredible to me, And one thing that, that personality type is perceived as is an extrovert. And I thought she was an extrovert initially. But they can carry a conversation along with extroverts and people that they really like or enjoy their company. They don't do that with everybody. They don't open up right away to everybody. They just don't. But if they do feel comfortable enough with you to talk to you or share their world with you, they do it. So, that I just think that's so awesome. They can be very guarded people, very private people. I'm very private. However, when we did start talking, when I started talking, we hit it off. It was really, really good. It was really nice. We had a picnic. Nothing fancy. I've told this story before. I put everything in little bags so that my co-wife could make her own sandwich because she has some food allergies and I'm scared of those. So I was like, I'm not putting her sandwich together or else I would have built that thing for her. But one thing that I learned through, the most challenging times in my life, in my marriage, in polygyny was that I needed to learn, who she was as a person outside of just being married to Coach Nazir. And, for clarity, for those of you that are new, there's just two of us, Coach Nyla and myself, Coach Fatimah, and our husband is Coach Nazir. Shout out to him. He's pretty awesome. However, there was a time that I didn't think he was too awesome. So he knows that. He's talked and trained about that. My awesome co-wife has talked and trained about, the different transitions that we went through from her perspective. And I really appreciate that transparency. That's not easy. Usually people that are in polygyny or co-wives that are in polygyny, they tend to live this very private, secluded kind of life because there's so much judgment out there about sharing a husband and about having children with the same man that is so ridiculous that it's like, you know what, I'll just withdraw from society and I won't talk about it because clearly if I do talk about it, nobody's listening to my story. As an initial wife, I wanted to give a voice to initial wives and help them develop those fulfilling relationships that they desire, that fulfilling relationship that they, may desire with their husband. And my co-wife does the same for subsequent wives as well. And that's very important because the subsequent wives, I think they take, we all take hits, but I think they really take a lot of hits because they're subsequent or they're after or they're second, third, or fourth. And, society and the people around us aren't fair sometimes. And before they get to know who they're talking about, they judge them really harshly. And I've seen people do it to my co-wife. But one thing I did is get to know her. And she wanted to get to know me way before I was willing. And then I said, you know what, this is ridiculous. I need to have a conversation that is healthy and not loud and not arguing, because the last thing I'm going to do is argue with anyone, about the fact that there was a decision made in regards to polygyny and nobody put a gun on Coach Nazir. I don't care what anybody says. I'm here to tell you, I've been married to him almost 26 years. You don't make him do anything that he does not want to do. Period. It just ain't going to happen. Nor was she trying, but a lot of people gave that label. It was not fair at different times to the three of us, the way, we were judged and treated by people in society, people in the community. And we had to get that together rather quickly. However, having your co-wives back, I'll just give you a little background. There was a time where I wasn't speaking to or with my co-wife, and, I was cordial to her. And I have to stress that because that is important. Just because you're hurting or just because you're disappointed or you don't know what's going on and you're trying to figure out life and you're just scared, that does not mean that you have to be cruel and just evil. I've seen it. It's something that happens. I've heard so many horror stories, but I've also seen and helped coach some very powerful amazing stories of triumph with co-wives, and so has my co-wife, and we talk about that, in our relationship mastery inner circle. And if you want to become a member, please visit outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM for relationship mastery. Now let's get back to the co-wifing. Getting to know one another as individuals was very important. And when someone would come to me with something negative, I remember distinctly there was a time we were in a building together, and I was on one side of the building and she was in another room, like a communal room, and somebody approached me that I don't know if someone threatened her or something happened. They either talked about hitting her or a threat to her, something like that. And I told the messenger that carried the message, because I didn't know who said it. I said, well, what's not going to happen in this building is I bet you ain't nobody going to put their hands on her. I bet you that. And when I said that, I don't think the person that was handing me this message thought I was going to say that, because they could tell there was some tension where I was, one place, she was another, and not really all the time. It was just this specific time. The climate was right for someone to say something that was threatening. And I just said, I don't believe this is happening. And I think the woman that brought it to me, I think she was thinking or assuming that I was going to go, oh, that's not my problem. I don't have anything to do with that or whatever. Well, she was wrong, because I was not going to let someone lay a finger on my co-wife, period. It just wasn't going to happen. And if it happened, it was going to be real ugly. And I'm not someone that goes to violence. However, I will defend myself. I will defend my family. Whatever that looks like, that's what it's going to be. That's my children. That's my bonus babies. I don't think anybody needs to stand and prevent anyone from hitting Coach Nazir, because, I've said this before, prayerfully nobody is that out of their mind that they would come up to him and try to hit him, because, that wouldn't end well on them, on their part. Be fanning, waking them, trying to make them come to with the EMT there. But, I got jokes, but I'm serious. I don't think too many people. And I think that's another thing that's unfair to co-wives. A lot of co-wives get the heat, and the men don't really get as much as we get, especially where I'm from. The women tend to get these little barbs kind of shot at them. But having your co-wives back doesn't mean you're always talking to one another. It does mean that somebody might be bringing you some information about her that's negative, or trying to use it to hurt you, or trying to get a reaction out of you. So I always wanted to come from the point of view that I remember another time, someone came to me and they said something. I said, listen, if you're going to say something to me about Nyla, don't, okay? Because I don't want to hear it. And then they just went on about their little merry way. You got to teach people how to treat you. And it's like you got to teach people how to treat your co-wife, even if you're not there yet. You can say, that has nothing to do with me. That's not my business. Or, why are you asking? And I've asked people, are you trying to get a reaction out of me? And these people are not ready for these responses, because I'm supposed to be upset. I'm supposed to be sad. I'm supposed to be out of control. I'm supposed to be crying. And this was many, many years ago. So guys, please don't compare your chapter 1 or our chapter almost 11, because it took some time to get to a place of accepting myself, accepting the situation, accepting so many things that were going right versus, accepting the things that were going wrong. But I do remember a couple times people coming after me to get me riled up, and kind of what they want to do, some of them, is make you opponents of one another or enemies of each other. And they want to see what you're going to do with it. So I know the woman that said, well, this lady said, oh yeah, she said she's going to hit her. I said, oh, for real? I want to see it. because that wasn't going to happen. And then there's other instances where people try to just throw these really nasty jabs in and, well, she's not the real wife. And I'm like, says who? It's the responses that we have versus the reactions that we have. So even if you're not talking at this point, you can still have each other's back, because whether we're at a space where we want to admit it or not, if we have the same husband and we have children with the same man, we're in the same family, whether or not it looks like two families or not. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There was someone that, and he's a good person. He was like, it must be hard, on the brother. He's got two families. And I said, no, he's got one. He's got one big old family. He's like, you right, sis. He got one big family, So it's just, some people just don't know what to say, and they're innocent. And some people know exactly what they're doing and are being really evil and vindictive and clowns about it and immature about your relationship or lack thereof with your co-wife. But for me, it was just a must. And I wasn't always this way. I would just say, that's not my business. I don't have any dealing in that. I don't know what's going on. I wouldn't even say I didn't know what's going on, but I would just sternly say, that's not my business. I love that my co-wife always says and has trained on minding your marriage. My marriage is my business. My marriage is my business. So whatever anyone has to think of or say about my marriage or Coach Nyla's marriage to Coach Nazir, their judgment has nothing to do with me at all. Because what they feel about me, what they feel about my co-wife is really not my business. But if they walk up in my face and then make it my business, then we will have a discussion. It'll be pretty short and powerful and impactful. And I let people know where I stand and where she stands with me. And sometimes really great, good people, that's all they need to hear. They're just like, you guys okay? You guys cool? Yeah, we're great. That's so awesome. And they go about their way. Doesn't make or break them. So you'll know the ones that are trying to hurt you or trying to use your co-wife to hurt you. But even if you don't feel like, I noticed that when I didn't feel like having anybody's back and then I did, I felt so much better in the long run, because I'm like, I'm glad I wasn't reckless with my mouth with that person, because I found out later on down the line, they just really didn't like me. They just were being nosy. So should you or shouldn't you depends on, how's your communication going? Are you invested in having healthy communication? Do you really want, to be cordial? Do you want to get to know each other? Do you want to get to understand one another's story? When I understood my co-wife's story, then this all made so much sense in my mind. And I felt so much better because I was asking the proper person the proper questions. I wasn't doing this thing where I used to do, I would ask Coach Nazir on occasion, well, how come this and that and the third? He'd go, why don't you just ask her? Why don't you just talk to her? And I'm like, what? Why should I talk to her when I have you right here to talk to? Because the wisdom is you're getting the answer from the person that is stating these things, that's saying what the goal is saying what their truth is, or sharing their experience. I got all the information that I needed that was my business, and then that was it. I didn't need to dig. I didn't need to go any further. So I really love that she allowed time and space and, allowed, me to have those moments where I could go, okay, well, let me ask her. Let's sit down. Let's have lunch. Just willing to win as co-wives, because you can be co-wives and just say, you know what, that's my co-wife. I'm tolerating her right now. Or you could do your personal development work and work on you, because you can't make anybody do anything. You can't make anybody like you. Can't make anybody get along with you. And I know so many co-wives are not getting along because of who knows. They all have their own story. But if you have someone in your life that is your co-wife that you feel as though you could really learn to get to know them. Again, you don't have to. But I learned that once I got out of my own way and started asking questions and started being more understanding, and that's the du'as that I made. I'm like, let me be more understanding. Let me find out who my co-wife is just outside of being a wife. And I found out so many awesome things. It really helped me with my healing. And she said some pretty powerful statements about polygyny, and she talks about that in her story, and it's very inspiring. And it just helped so much. It helped my children so much, and they're grown women now, but it just really did. So, you know, when I wasn't talking, I still had her back, and I still was struggling with my own emotions, and then I was having her back over here, and then I was upset over there, and it was a roller coaster of emotion. But I just remember that day when I heard that threat. And I said, this is a human being that is in our family. She's part of our family. She's family to me. And I'm going to stand here and listen to this woman say somebody else is threatening her or threatened her. It just hit different. It was different for me. It was more difficult. But getting to know one another and taking baby steps didn't happen overnight. It took years. But it took baby steps, and I'm glad. However, had I spoke to her sooner, I would have felt better about who she just was as a human being. You know, as a mom, as a sister, as a cousin, as an auntie, you know, that helped me so much. So, you guys, with that, I'm going to end this live, and make sure you guys are following us on our social media channels here at YouTube and Facebook at Outstanding Personal Relationships, and on IG at Outstanding Relationships. Again, I'm Coach Fatimah. I'm going to leave you with a little GLC. Make sure you're growing intentionally, loving fearlessly, and connecting on a higher level every single day. I will see you guys in the next one. Remember, baby steps if you need them. And have a great rest of your day. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.